In 1966, the Brazilian national football team, as the reigning champions for 2 consecutive years, arrived in England with the pride of kings. The Seleção then brought with them a generation of players seen as a blend of the immortal legends of 1958 and 1962 and the blossoming talents of the younger generation. The world expected a fiery samba dance, a miraculous hat trick of championships. But football always holds the most cruel scenarios. At Goodison Park, that dream shattered. The flamboyant style of play of the South Americans was stifled by the calculated and brutal tactics of their European opponents. Brazil was eliminated in the group stage, leaving behind the image of king of football Pele limping off the pitch in tears. Nearly 60 years have passed since that haunting English summer. Time has veiled the black and white films in dust, and has also etched unexpected paths in the lives of those young men. Some have risen from failure to become living legends, some have chosen the noble path of intellectual pursuits, and some geniuses have been forever left alone. Now, let us pause to listen to the story of the fate of the samba dancers in the 1966 Brazilian national team. Pele, in the Brazilian squad at the 1966 World Cup, at the age of 25 and at the peak of his career, arrived in England not just as a player, but as an icon, an O-Rei, king, that every defense longed to bring down. However, despite playing only 2 matches and scoring 1 goal, the image of Pele being relentlessly and brutally tackled by Bulgarian and Portuguese defenders, and then helplessly leaving the field with his cloak draped over his shoulders, became a haunting symbol of Brazil's downfall that year. And so, that brief but tragic performance perfectly encapsulated the class of a genius stifled by violence, of a king stripped of his throne before the eyes of the world. After the nightmare of 1966, Pele vowed never to play in the World Cup again. But fate had other plans for him. He returned in 1970, shining brightly like the sun, to bring home the Jules Rimet Trophy for Brazil, solidifying his status as the greatest player of all time. Leaving Santos, he went to the New York Cosmos, sowing the seeds of love for football in America. Pele's life after retirement was a relentless journey of a global ambassador. He served as Minister of Sport, traveled the world to inspire, and became the most valuable brand face on the planet. He lived in dazzling glory, respected by heads of state, a life anyone would dream of. Pele always appeared with a radiant smile, sparkling white teeth, and good wishes for posterity, a living symbol of success and happiness. His greatness on the pitch seemed to perfectly mirror his life. On the field, Pele was unbeatable, and off the field, he was a true king, always maintaining a dignified, powerful yet compassionate demeanor. He was a bridge between football and peace, between sport and culture. However, even a king's journey must come to an end. On December 29, 2022, the hearts of millions of fans were broken upon hearing the news of Pele's death at the age of 82 after a long battle with colon cancer. His passing marked the end of an era, but the legacy he left behind, over 1,000 goals and an immortal smile, will forever be a beacon illuminating humanity's love of football. At the 1966 World Cup, at the age of 32, Garrincha, burdened by tired, bowed legs and a fractured knee, still managed to score a spectacular free kick against Bulgaria, his final World Cup goal. Although his magical dribbling was no longer as fluid as it had been 4 years earlier, Garrincha's presence on the field remained a romantic note, reminiscent of the golden age of improvisational football. He played without calculation, like an overgrown child in a world of cunning adults. Away from the pitch, the life of the bow-legged angel was a long-running tragedy. Without the protection of his club, lacking financial management skills, and consumed by alcohol, Garrincha spiraled into obscurity. He once had a much-publicized relationship with the famous singer Elza Soares, but it ended in violence and tears. Garrincha, who once made the world laugh with his dribbling skills, spent his final years in poverty, loneliness, and illness. He was the most painful embodiment of the saying, talent and misfortune. An artist who only knew how to perform on stage but lost his way behind the scenes. The most poignant aspect of Garrincha's life is the stark contrast between the football field and his personal life. On the field, he was a master of joy, turning the illogical into the logical. But off the field, he was powerless against his own fate. He was tragically naive, only to be mercilessly crushed by life. And then, the tragedy ended on January 20th, 1983. Garrincha died in a charity hospital at the age of 49 from cirrhosis, a consequence of severe alcoholism. On the day he passed away, millions of Brazilians poured into the streets to mourn their little bird. Garrincha's legacy is not just about his dazzling dribbling skills, but a sad reminder of the fragility of genius. Jairzinho emerged as a beacon of hope in the bleak landscape of Brazil in 1966. The then 21-year-old, deployed on the wing, possessed the power of a whirlwind. While not yet capable of carrying a struggling team, Jairzinho's speed, relentless attacking, and powerful style signaled the emergence of a true goal-scorer. He was chosen to succeed Garrincha, a tremendous pressure but also a driving force for him to rise to the top. After his failure in England, Jairzinho exploded onto the scene, becoming the World Cup whirlwind of 1970. He set an unprecedented record, scoring in every match of a World Cup, leading Brazil to victory. His club career was closely associated with Botafogo, where he was revered like a saint. After retiring from playing, Jairzinho did not choose a life of leisure. He embarked on a coaching career and possessed a particularly keen eye for discovering young talent. He was the one who discovered the alien Ronaldo de Lima in the 1990s, opening a new chapter for world football. Unlike the wildness of Garrincha or the charisma of Pele, Jairzinho in real life is a practical, sharp, and passionate man dedicated to coaching. His strength and decisiveness on the pitch have been translated into unwavering dedication to nurturing young talent. He lives a life deeply intertwined with the spirit of football, quiet but incredibly effective. Today, at 79 years old, Jairzinho is still living a healthy life in Rio de Janeiro. He regularly appears in the media to comment on football and share his glorious memories. The whirlwind of yesteryear is now a respected elder, but the flame of passion within him has never died out. He is a living witness, a link between the glorious past and the present of Brazilian football. Tostão arrived at the 1966 World Cup at the age of 19, the youngest member of the team. He embodied intelligence on the field, earning the nickname the White Pele. Although Brazil lost, Tostão's goal against Hungary was proof of his innate talent. He played football with his brain, possessing superb observational and playmaking abilities that compensated for his small stature. Tostão was a subtle, refined note amidst the vibrant symphony of Samba. However, Tostão's career was a series of harsh trials by fate. He suffered a retinal detachment after a football hit him in the eye, an injury that threatened to permanently take his sight. But with extraordinary willpower, Tostão underwent surgery and returned to help Brazil win the 1970 World Cup. Sadly, the fear of permanent blindness forced him to retire at the young age of 26, the prime of a footballer's career. But when one door closed, Tostão opened another equally brilliant one. He passed the entrance exam to medical school, became a doctor, and later a journalist and one of Brazil's most insightful football commentators. Tostão's wisdom on the pitch perfectly matched his intellectual nature off the field. He was a rare player respected not only for his skills, but also for his brilliant mind. He wrote about football not in the language of a former player, but with the mindset of a doctor and a philosopher, profound, analytical, and deeply humane. Today, at 77 years old, Tostão is one of Brazil's most respected commentators. He lives a peaceful life, far removed from the glitz and glamour of the football world. He is living proof that football isn't everything, and that a player can absolutely conquer other intellectual heights after leaving the pitch. Gilmar, the goalkeeper of goalkeepers, was Brazil's goalkeeper in 1966. At 35, Gilmar was a steadfast pillar of support, having previously lifted the World Cup twice. His goalkeeping style was calm and elegant, rarely resorting to flamboyant dives due to his exceptional positioning. Although he couldn't save Brazil from the 1966 disaster caused by a leaky defense, Gilmar's class remains unquestionable. He was a gentleman in goal, providing absolute reassurance. After retiring from football, Gilmar continued to achieve success in business, a rarity among players at the time. He ran a large car dealership and lived a comfortable, peaceful life with his family in São Paulo. He was known for being quiet, polite, and always maintaining a respectable image. Gilmar avoided scandals, lived a private life, but always received the utmost respect from colleagues and fans. Gilmar's calm, almost icy demeanor on the pitch is a reflection of his cool head in real-life business. He represents a generation of players who are forward-thinking, who know how to use their fame to build a sustainable career. He is a shining example of professionalism and responsibility. However, in his final years, the veteran goalkeeper faced a serious illness. Just days after suffering a stroke and heart attack, on August 25, 2013, Gilmar passed away at the age of 83. He died just 1 year before the World Cup returned to Brazil, leaving behind immeasurable grief. He is remembered not only for his golden gloves of an era, but also as a kind gentleman until his last breath. Hilderaldo Bellini, the legendary captain of 1958, arrived at the 1966 World Cup at the age of 36. He was a symbol of steely determination and unwavering dedication. Although the burden of age had slowed his pace, and he was responsible for several goals conceded against Hungary, Bellini's presence remained highly symbolic. He was the first in the world to lift the Jules Rimet trophy above his head, a gesture that became a model for all subsequent captains. After retiring from football, Bellini lived a quiet and respected life. He became a small businessman, managing a shoe store and participating in social activities. His image lifting the trophy was immortalized in a statue placed in front of the legendary Maracanã Stadium, making him immortal even while still alive. Bellini was a family man, humble and gentle, in contrast to his sullen, fierce demeanor on the field. But cruel fate challenged the captain in the final stages of his life. He battled Alzheimer's disease for over 10 years, a disease that gradually robbed the man who had created memories for an entire nation of his memories. It was a silent and painful battle, where the hero of yesteryear gradually forgot his own glory. On March 20, 2014, Hilderaldo Bellini passed away at the age of 83. His death plunged the entire nation of Brazil into mourning. The great captain has returned to his motherland, but his statue in front of the Maracanã Stadium still stands there, tall and proud, a reminder for generations to come of a man who carried the weight of Brazilian football on his shoulders. Djalma Santos stands as a monument of sportsmanship in a tournament where violence reigns supreme. At 37, this was the legend's fourth and final World Cup. He was no longer as physically fit as he was during Brazil's triumphs in 1958 and 1962, but his experience and demeanor remained unique. Djalma didn't tackle to injure, he defended with superior judgment and technique. Although Brazil's 1966 World Cup collapsed, the image of veteran Djalma Santos tirelessly working on the right wing still evokes respect. He embodied an era of romantic football that was gradually being replaced by ruthless pragmatism. After retiring from the national team, Djalma Santos continued to play consistently until the age of 41 for Atlético Paranaense, a record at the time. The most extraordinary aspect of his career wasn't the trophies, but the statistics. Over 1,000 professional matches without a single red card. After hanging up his boots, he chose a quiet life in the town of Uberaba, opening a football school and living harmoniously with his neighbors. He turned down glamorous offers to enjoy simple pleasures, teaching children to play football with joy, not hatred. Djalma Santos's clean playing style strangely mirrored his life. He lived a life free of scandals and blemishes, full of integrity and loyalty. He was a gentleman both on and off the field, always maintaining a gentle smile and a serene spirit. However, the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death spares no one. On July 23, 2013, Djalma Santos passed away at the age of 84 due to severe pneumonia. His passing was a sad moment. The world of football lost one of the greatest right-backs in history, a man who proved that one can win without resorting to dirty tactics, and that one can become a legend simply through kindness. At 25, Gerson was expected to be the engine of the national team. However, injuries and the chaos in Brazil's organization meant he only played in one match and couldn't salvage the situation. He was doubted, called a player lacking mental fortitude. But few knew that this was just a warm-up for a great leap. Gerson possessed a golden left foot, canotinha de oro, with the ability to make long passes with centimeter-perfect accuracy. He played with the mindset of an architect, creating exquisite curves in mid-air. 4 years after his failure in England, Gerson returned and became the brilliant mind behind the 1970 Brazil team, creating one of the most beautiful styles of football in history. After retiring, Gerson chose not to become a coach, but instead became a renowned radio and television commentator. He brought his sharp wit, frankness, and sometimes harshness from the pitch to the airwaves. He was not afraid to criticize the vices of modern football, becoming the voice of conscience for fans. His life was also once entangled in the controversy surrounding Gerson's Law, a phrase from a cigarette advertisement that was misinterpreted as promoting a cutthroat lifestyle, a matter that troubled him for many years. There was a strong connection between Gerson the player and Gerson the commentator, control and direction. On the field, he directed his teammates with a single gesture. On the radio, he used his words to shape public opinion. He always held the game in his own way. Today, at 84 years old, Gerson still lives in Rio de Janeiro. Although his health has declined considerably, the spirit of the golden left foot remains. He occasionally appears on YouTube to talk about football with boundless passion. He is proof that a defeat in 1966 doesn't define who you are, but how you get back up afterward is what matters most. Lima, in a tournament where most stars only managed to play 1 or 2 matches before getting injured or being substituted, emerged as a rare exception, and at the age of 24, he played the full 90 minutes in all 3 of Brazil's matches at the 1966 World Cup. Dubbed Coringa, the Joker, for his incredible versatility, Lima could play as a wingback, defensive midfielder, or even a forward when needed. At Santos, he was a devoted servant to Pele. While in the national team that year, he became a tireless worker, constantly patching up the holes in the sinking Brazilian ship. Therefore, though not flashy or attention-grabbing, Lima's diligence, sacrifice, and perseverance are undeniable. Lima's career is closely linked to Santos's golden era. He played nearly 700 matches for the club, winning every major title. However, behind the glamour of the pitch, Lima's life has been quite quiet. He didn't become a media star or a wealthy businessman. He chose to dedicate himself to youth development at Santos, the very club where he spent his youth. He is a diligent teacher, nurturing underprivileged children who dream of changing their lives through football, just as he did in his youth. Lima's versatility and selflessness on the pitch seem to reflect his life, always ready to contribute in any position, without seeking personal recognition. He is a silent hero, a launching pad for other stars to shine. Today, at 83 years old, Lima is living out his twilight years with declining health. He has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a condition that is gradually erasing his memories of the glorious days alongside Pele. Though his memories may fade, in the illustrious history of Santos and Brazilian football, Lima's name will always be etched as a symbol of unwavering loyalty and dedication. Manga embodies the harsh realities of the goalkeeper position. At the 1966 World Cup, at the age of 29, he started in the fateful match against Portugal. It was a painful memory, as he had to pick the ball out of the net 3 times, and Brazil was eliminated. But Manga is not only remembered for that defeat. He is famous for his deformed hands, his fingers bent and broken from countless saves of powerful shots without the specialized gloves of the time. He caught the ball with instinct, with recklessness, and even with blood. Manga's career lasted an incredibly long time, until he was 45 years old. He became a legend not only in Brazil, with Botafogo and Internacional, but also in Uruguay, with Nacional. After retiring, Manga faced many financial and health difficulties. His years of flying took a heavy toll on his bones. He lived in exile and hardship in Ecuador before being brought back to Brazil, thanks to donations from fans. Manga's deformed hands are the most powerful testament to sacrifice. On the field, he endured shots. Off the field, he suffered the harshness of old age and poverty. He represents the players of yesteryear, dedicating their entire bodies to their passion but lacking financial security in old age. Now, at 88 years old, Manga lives at the Retiro dos Artistas, artists' retirement home, in Rio de Janeiro. This is the final resting place of a legend who once struck fear into countless strikers. Despite his mobility difficulties and reliance on government assistance, Manga maintains an optimistic smile. He is a living legend, reminding us of the price paid for glory on the football field. Brito arrived at the 1966 World Cup at the age of 26 as one of the toughest playing center backs. He only played one match, but his courageous, fearless style of play and excellent physical condition left a strong impression. Brito wasn't the flamboyant center-back like Bellini. He was a true gladiator. He was willing to do anything, even resort to dirty tricks, to protect his goal. He was called The Rock because of his unwavering and tough nature. After the defeat in 1966, Brito became an irreplaceable part of the 1970 championship-winning team. He was the one doing the dirty work behind the scenes, allowing artists like Pele and Tostão to create the masterpieces above. Brito wandered through many major clubs in Brazil, such as Vasco da Gama, Flamengo, Corinthians. Everywhere he went, he was a leader. After retiring, he lived a rather private life, avoiding the media. He was known for his strong, straightforward personality, sometimes hot-tempered, but very honorable. Brito's intensity on the pitch is a reflection of who he is off the pitch. A man of action, without frills or embellishments. He protects his private life just as fiercely as he guards opposing strikers. Today, at 86 years old, Brito lives a secluded life in Rio de Janeiro. He rarely appears in public or attends commemorative events. He chooses to enjoy his old age with his children and grandchildren, keeping to himself the memories of his life or death battles on the football field. For him, the past is to be cherished, but present peace is what he values most. At 21, Alcindo was a great hope for football in southern Brazil, Grêmio. He started the first two matches alongside Pele and Garrincha. Quick, powerful, and possessing a killer instinct, Alcindo was expected to share the goal-scoring burden. However, the immense pressure of wearing the yellow and green jersey and his lack of experience prevented him from finding the net. He left the tournament disappointed, but that wasn't the end of the road. Returning from England, Alcindo went on to become the greatest legend in the history of Grêmio, nicknamed Bugler. He scored hundreds of goals, becoming an idol for generations of fans in Porto Alegre. Later, he moved to Mexico to play for Club America, and achieved great success there as well. In real life, Alcindo is a gentle, family-loving man deeply connected to his homeland. He has dedicated much of his time after retirement to working for Grêmio, supporting young talents, and participating in community activities. There's an interesting contrast. On the pitch, Alcindo was a ruthless goal-scoring machine, but off the pitch, he was a warm-hearted man always focused on the community. He transformed the sadness of 1966 into motivation to build a massive legacy at the club level. However, the journey of this legend came to an end. On August 27, 2016, Alcindo passed away at the age of 71 due to complications from diabetes. He died in the very place where he was most loved, Porto Alegre. On the day of his funeral, thousands of Grêmio fans came to bid him farewell, mourning the most outstanding son of the team. Alcindo's legacy lies not in the World Cup, but in the hearts of the working people of southern Brazil, where he will forever be a king.